On the day Litvinov reached the last page, he gathered up his friend Gursky's manuscript, shuffled the pages around, and threw them in the trash bin under the kitchen sink. But Rosa often came over, and it occurred to him that she might find them there. So he took them out again and disposed of them in the metal trash cans behind the house, hidden under a few garbage bags. Then he got ready for bed, but half an hour later, plagued by the fear that someone might find them, he was up again, digging through the bins to retrieve the pages. He stuffed them under his bed and tried to sleep. Only the stench of garbage was too bad, so he got up, found a flashlight, took a gardening trowel out of his landlady's shed, dug a hole next to her white hydrangea, dropped the pages in, and buried them. By the time he got into bed again in his muddy pajamas, the sky was already getting light. That might have been the last of it if it weren't for the fact that every time he saw his landlady's hydrangea from his window, Litvinov was reminded of what he wished to forget. When spring arrived, he began to watch the bush, obsessively, half expecting it to bloom with the news of his secret. One afternoon, he watched it aggravated suspense as his landlady planted some tulips around the base of it. Whenever he would close his eyes to sleep, the huge white flowers would appear in his mind to taunt him. Things only got worse. His conscience tormented him more and more, until the night before he and Rosa were to get married and move to the bungalow on the cliff. Litvinov got up in a cold sweat, snuck out in the middle of the night, and dug up his burden once and for all. From then on, he kept it in a drawer of his desk in the study of the new house, locked with a key he thought he'd hidden.
And then I realized that I had been searching for the wrong person. I looked into the eyes of the oldest man in the world for a boy who fell in love when he was 10. I said, "Were you ever in love with a girl named Alma?" He was silent. His lips trembled. I thought he didn't understand. So I asked him again, "Were you ever in love with a girl named Alma Marinsky?" He reached out his hand. He tapped me twice on the arm. I knew he was trying to tell me something, but I didn't know what. I said, "Were you ever in love with a girl named Alma Marinsky who left for America?" His eyes filled with tears. He tapped my arm twice, and then twice again. I said, "The son you think didn't know you existed? Was his name Isaac Mortaz?"
I flipped back to the photograph. Then I read the whole first page. Then I flipped back to the photograph, read another page, then flipped back and stared at the photograph. Jacob Marcus was just a character in a book. The man who'd been sending letters to my mother the whole time was the writer Isaac Mortz, Alma's son. He'd been signing from his letters with the character of his most famous book. A line from his letter came back to me. Sometimes I even pretend to write, but I'm not fooling anyone. I got to page 58 before the library closed. It was already dark when I got outside. I stood in front of the entrance with the book under my arm, watching the rain and trying to grasp the situation.
The last time I saw her, she was wearing her yellow apron. She was stuffing things in a suitcase. The house was a wreck. She told me to go out into the woods. She'd packed me food and told me to wear my coat, even though it was July. "Go," she said. I was too old to listen, but like a child I listened. She told me she'd follow the next day. We chose a spot we both knew in the woods. The giant walnut tree used to like Tati because you said it had human qualities. I didn't bother to say goodbye. I chose to believe what was easier. I waited, but she never came. Since then, I've lived with the guilt of understanding too late that she thought she would have been a burden to me.